че има празни места също. Тук please, ladies and gentlemen, take your seats, please. We will start.
Haydi Eddie.
Partnership.
Добър ден на всички.
Good morning, Prime Ministers, Deputy Prime Ministers. It's a great honor for me to host you in this very room where only 7 days ago all the leaders of the European Union and Western Balkans used to meet during the Bulgarian presidency of the Council of the European Union. So I'm really honored to preside over this leaders' meeting between the Premier of the Chinese State Council and the leaders of Central and Eastern European countries, and we hope that we will, through our discussions, contribute for deepening open and pragmatic cooperation for inclusive prosperity. Let me pass the floor to our Prime Minister, Boyko Borisov. Esteemed leader of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, prime ministers of member countries and observers of the initiative 16+1. 7 days after the end of the EU presidency and 6 months after the end of the Estonian presidency, and also 7 months before the next presidency of Romania. So we're still together. It's a great honor for me to welcome you all to the 7th meeting of the heads of government of the Central and Eastern European countries and China. The logo of our meeting is Deepening Open and Pragmatic Cooperation for Inclusive Prosperity. This meeting is hosted very soon after Bulgaria completed its presidency of the EU Council. It's a great honor for us to host Premier Li Keqiang, the Premier of the State Council of the People's Republic of China, and express our great appreciation for supporting and joining this initiative 16+1. It is our great idea. It is our great hope that you will continue to support this initiative and this idea. I am glad to hear that the representatives of other EU member states have also joined us here, Germany and France. This is a forum that sends strong signals of cooperation and works along the norms which are being established increasingly in Europe. We can conclude on the experience so far that the cooperation relations between the Central and Eastern European countries and China has indeed been strengthened. About half a year ago, we met at the 6th meeting of the heads of government in Budapest, where Viktor Orban was our wonderful host. Through the efforts of all the members who attended the Budapest meeting, we have made advances in our trade and financial cooperation. Bulgaria highly values its relations with the People's Republic of China. They are based on mutual respect, and we have been placing all of our efforts in turning that cooperation into a fruitful and productive relationship. This will hopefully help the advancement of relations between the EU and China. And other projects particularly to help improve the connectivity of Europe, and in particular transport corridors 8, 4, and 10, and the horizontal corridors that will connect us more closely to Hungary, the Czech Republic, and so on. Yesterday we have signed 15 agreements which bear witness that the relations with the People's Republic of China have indeed been brought up to a new higher level. In Bulgaria, dear colleagues, we have always tried to work in the spirit of cooperation to make sure that all of our neighbors on the Balkans are increasingly prosperous, and in this way we can indeed be all successful, in the same way as the Visegrad countries are supporting each other and standing up for their ideas together. All of us who are here connected to a number of transport, digital and energy projects can contribute to increasing the standard of living and the GDPs of our countries. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of catching up to do historically because of many circumstances, including the various wars that we waged over the centuries. But now we have new opportunities with the new possibilities that are setting up, including improving our connectivity with the Baltic states, because these are indeed wonderful opportunities that will be to the benefit of all of us, linking the colder seas to the warmer seas in the south. And as the Chinese premier said, we can bring together 3, 4 or 5 countries together. And you know that in the European Union this is a welcome practice, that when you have a project which is a joint project among several countries, this gets even stronger support. So once again, thank you for honoring this meeting with your presence, and please accept my apologies if the organization didn't run very smoothly. I wish success to this forum, and I would like to thank Mr. Li Keqiang once again. He and I will make a suggestion to all of you, but I am going to leave it to Mr. Li to name that initiative. It will be a kind of a center that will help support awareness raising and promoting information about EU legislation that will be conducive to the relationships with Chinese businesses, because there are some intricacies that the Chinese business should be aware of, and my Chinese colleague will tell you more about it. Thank you and welcome. I have the honor of inviting Mr. Li Keqiang, the President of the State Council of the People's Republic of China. You have the floor, sir.
Prime Minister Borisov, dear colleagues, it is my great pleasure to meet with leaders of Central and East European countries again in Sofia. I want to thank the Bulgarian government and the Prime Minister Borisov for the thoughtful preparations and arrangements made to the meeting. Just now, Prime Minister Borisov was very humble and modest by saying that the organization did not go smoothly. But I cannot find any problem with the organization. So still, at the outset of my remarks, I want to thank you for the perfect arrangement you have made for the meeting. The organization has been perfect in the sense that the leaders of the 16+1 countries can gather together in this meeting. And also, the organization is perfect in the sense that we have so many business leaders attending the business forum. It is also perfect in the sense that economic cooperation and trade between China and CEE countries experienced fast growth in the first 5 months of this year. So in this sense, Bulgaria, as the host of the meeting, has made tremendous efforts. And also, the theme of the meeting is very relevant. It focuses on openness and sharing. '16+1 cooperation should be an open platform. It is open in the sense that China is open to the 16 CEE countries, and also it is open among the 16 countries. It is open, and the 16 CEE countries are open to China as well. More importantly, CEE countries are in Europe. Some of you are EU members, and some of you are aspirants for EU membership. And China is open to the EU, so we have invited observers from the European Union to our meeting today. We have also invited the World Bank and the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development to the meeting as observers. What this demonstrates the future direction of our cooperation. We will expand our cooperation with members of the European Union, Western European countries, and also members of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And together, within the framework of this 16+1 cooperation, we can have open cooperation in all areas. And another keyword of the theme of the meeting is sharing. The world needs inclusive development. If you look at human history, exclusive development has no future. Exclusive approach to development was abandoned in different periods of history, but inclusiveness has always been a key to success. I think inclusiveness is the future of humanity. And also in our cooperation, we need to keep an inclusive mindset. Now that we are open to each other, we need to be inclusive. We need to share the fruits of cooperation to all the members and all parties concerned. Given the changes, given the complex changes in the international political and economic landscape, China and the 16 CEE countries need to together send a message of opening up and inclusiveness. To be specific, we need to uphold multilateralism. We need to uphold free trade. Maybe some people will say that China and CEE countries are all emerging economies. We're all developing countries. Does our voice count? Will people hear our voice, our message? I think for any country in the world, as long as it's an independent member of the international community, it will have value to the international community. There will be a foundation for the country to stand tall in the community of nations. This is my first visit to Bulgaria, but I do have a strong sentimental attachment to Bulgaria. There is a deep history of friendship between China and Bulgaria. I do not know much about the Bulgarian history, to be frank, but on my first day of arrival in this country, Prime Minister Borisov invited me to the National Museum of Bulgaria, and he showed me the exhibits in the museum. Gold artifacts 99.99% purity gold bowl made in 7,000 years ago. I'm not an expert on goldware, but I trust Prime Minister Borisov is telling the truth. It is indeed from 7,000 years ago. I visited Egypt. I also saw some exhibition of ancient civilizations in Egypt. But still, I was very much shocked by the exhibit in your national museum. This demonstrates all countries have a unique civilization. Unique civilization, yes.
As long as we stand together and make our voices heard, then that will be very important to the whole world. We need to call for free trade and work together to prevent a slowdown of the global economic recovery. In this context, China is ready to take concrete actions to demonstrate that we are committed to openness. We have taken a series of further opening up measures. We've lowered the average tariff for imports. We've also significantly lowered the tariff for the goods imported for Chinese consumers. We've expanded access for the service sector in China. And for CEECs, you have some special and competitive agricultural products in particular. And the precondition of good quality and security, China would like to import more from CEECs. We have asked our quality inspection authorities to work together with CEECs to make arrangement for more imports of products, particularly agricultural products, from CEECs. I'm sure your competitive products will be very popular on Chinese market. And the Chinese consumers will like your products. And meanwhile, this is a two-way traffic. Just now, we visited the Local Cooperation Expo. China has a lot of products, and our products are complementary with those of CEECs. And as long as we open ourselves to each other, we can increase our trade. And on this basis, we can increase investment cooperation. A lot of Chinese products are very popular among CEEC consumers, and it is very important to set up local factories and localize these Chinese products here. We also need to increase the source of funding. As I mentioned at the Business Forum, China will talk with World Bank, EBRD, and other international organizations to explore the possibility of providing joint funding for our China CEEC projects. And this can make our financing even more convenient. Such a financing modality can support European integration. It can also help CEECs getting integrated and getting into the EU. China hopes to see stability and prosperity in the EU, and that serves China's interest, because China hopes to see multipolarity in the world. We call for multilateralism. The EU is a very important force for peace and stability and prosperity. It is an indispensable force in the world. Unity between China and Europe and cooperation between us can ensure peace and stability of the whole world. We can also work together to explore new areas of cooperation. Over the years, local cooperation between us has been growing very fast and has been thriving over the years. An important secret of China's reform and opening up is that we have transitioned from a highly centralized planned economy to market economy. An important piece of experience is to mobilize the initiative of the local governments, the provinces, the cities, and county governments. And for the local companies, they have a strong desire and autonomous power to pursue international cooperation. They do not need to seek the consent from the central government, and they can make the decisions themselves to engage in international cooperation. So we believe that as long as we can mobilize the initiative of the local governments and local enterprises and ask them to form synergy with the CEEC countries, in this way, our China-CEEC cooperation would further blossom. We've already established such a platform of cooperation, and in the Expo, we have all seen the outcomes and results. Our cooperation needs to be open, transparent, and fair. CECs are in Europe, and our cooperation needs to follow the EU laws and rules. And this is very important because only in this way can we ensure the sound implementation and sustainability of relevant projects. Prime Minister Borisov and I have talked for several times, and we believe that it is necessary for us to carefully study the EU laws and rules, and the laws and rules of the 16 countries as well as those of China. And only in this way we can help the investors and enterprises understand what laws and rules to follow and what kind of risks to avoid. And in this way, our cooperation projects can develop faster and more mature manner. So we suggest that under the framework of 16+1 cooperation, we establish a consulting research center, that is Global Partnership Cooperation Center. By Global Partnership Cooperation Center, we do not mean that we need to plan for the whole world. Instead, in the context of globalization, we 16+1 countries need to carefully study how our cooperation can fit in with the EU laws and regulations and get more support from the EU, and how we can attract more support from the World Bank and other international organizations, for example, EBRD. And we will ask them and encourage them to join us. And this research center can invite the participants from 16+1 countries and from the EU, and they can provide some advices and suggestions for our cooperation. In this way, our cooperation projects will see steady and sound progress, and Chinese entrepreneurs will be more willing to make investment in the EU, and in this process, they can grow their awareness of the EU laws and rules, and this can also help them prevent relevant risks and even failures. China and Europe are geographically far apart from each other, and we have different cultures. So when Chinese business people make investment here, they need to have more knowledge of Europe. If you agree with me, I would like to ask Prime Minister Borisov to take the lead to study the specific plans to establish such a center. And China would like to become the sponsor of this center. We will also ask our scholars and experts to get involved in this center. We also welcome the participation of experts, friends from other 16 countries. And with the involvement of everyone, our cooperation will be based on careful analysis and research. And this is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. And now, Prime Minister Rama, the floor is yours.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Your Excellency, Prime Minister of the People's